John Fredericks, America's Godzilla of truth, popular and proficient in picking politics with prophetic precision. And now Jay Fred's picking football. Are y'all ready for this? All across the airwaves and streams of the John Fredericks Media Network. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins, your guide to picking football winners. With America's Godzilla of truth, John Fredericks, along with his partners in point picking, Jack and Nate. Also weekly contributors to the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Before you make that play, hear what J. Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Oh yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
Welcome to the NFL Wildcard edition of Godzilla Wins, and thank you for being with us all around the country. We're going to give you lots of winners, great analysis today. Hey, to follow all of our picks, we got fresh content every day. Go to GodzillaWins.com. That's GodzillaWins.com. You can go right there, bookmark it, sign up. By the way, when you sign up to get our newsletter, guess what you get? No obligation. You get entered in our $5,000 sweepstakes that we're going to give away on April 27th. Some lucky winner is going to get 5 large. It's as easy as that. And there's no obligation, and it costs you nothing on GodzillaWins.com because we like to make you money. Second place, steak knives. Go to GodzillaWins.com. We got a lot of action today, a lot of games. This is it. This is what separates the men from the boys, the wheat from the chaff, as they say. This is Wild Card Week, one of my favorite football weekends, along with the divisional round of the playoffs. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. We have a lot of picks, a lot of analysis. Of course, you've got yours truly here. Me, Godzilla Wins, John Fredericks, my oldest son, Jack Fredericks, who was live in Tunica, Mississippi at his casino. Now, got to remember, Jack also was the editor of Godzilla Wins. So if you got any complaints at all, you can go to Godzilla Wins and look him up, send him an email. And if you want to write for us, we're looking for writers. Got to have some little bit of writing experience. But if you're young and you want to break it and you want to be a sports writer, we're the place for you. Just go to GodzillaWins.com and there'll be an icon there. You can send information to Jack. He'll look at your resume, and we pay by the story. We're hiring writers all the time, every day. If you're young and you want to break into the business, this is the way to do it. Plus, you're going to get trained, so you're good to go. We got lots of picks coming up. But this segment brought to you by our great friends, Colonial Downs and Rosie's Gaming in Virginia. Now, Rosie's has paid out about $500 million in jackpots. Just the other day, get this, Richard took home $148,000 at Rosie's in New Kent, just outside of Richmond, on a $2 bet. I tell you what, it's all there. New games they've got: Ultimate Fire Lake, Rake and Bacon Deluxe, Wheel of Fortune. Learn more about Rosie's rewards and jackpots at rosiesgaming.com. Ann goes there, she wins. Hey, you guys take your significant other there. The food is great, have fun. Sports bar upstairs. You can bet your favorite football games there. Also, OTB, it's all there. Hey, guys, take your date to Rosie's. Take it from me. You can have a good time. You can get lucky twice. Rosie's, New Kent, Vinton, Richmond, Hampton, Dumfries, Collinsville, outside of Danville, coming soon to Emporia. Just go to rosiesgaming.com. That's rosiesgaming.com. Let's get right to it. We got Jack. We got Nate in Reno. And guys, this is it. I mean, here's Wild Card Weekend. This is one of the most fun weekends ever. And the first game on the card today doesn't start till 4:30 Eastern time this afternoon, but we got 2 games today: Seahawks, Niners, Chargers, and Jags. So let's start with your favorite team, guys, the Seahawks. You know, you told me from the beginning of the season, I got to hand it to you both. You told me they were going to make the playoffs. I laughed at you. They're in it. In fact, there's 2 teams you told me you were going to make the playoffs. I laughed. You guys were right. You've been on the Seahawks up until the last couple of games, the entire season. Packers get beat unbelievably at home by Detroit. Hawks are in. They're going to San Francisco with Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, at quarterback. They got the Niners 9.5 at home with a quarterback nobody heard of. Let's start with Nate, because he's been over this. He's been all over the Seahawks from day one. Loves Geno Smith. Nate, 9.5 without a quarterback in San Francisco. Now, some people say, well, Seattle backed in. Well, they didn't really back in because they had to win that game in overtime. They did that. And then Packers got beat. So how do they back in? This is a legitimate team that's in the playoffs, Nate, right?
Well, they backed in because they lost 5 straight at one point before they won the last couple games in the last couple weeks of the season. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a surprise. And they needed some help, right? They needed not just last week, but they also needed the Packers to lose in a really emotional game against Detroit that was wild to watch. Detroit seemed like they wanted that so badly to beat the Packers to knock the Packers out of the playoffs. But yeah, so talking about this week's game though, we have Seahawks at Niners. The spread is at 9.5. Is that what we have here? 9.5?
Yeah, 9.5. DraftKings got it 9.5.
As much celebrating as I did over the weekend after the Seahawks clinched their playoff berth and cashed a bazillion in futures for me, I think it's finally time that my relationship has ended with the Seahawks. To be quite honest, it was really painful for me to be on the sort of Seahawks train during their losing streak because their defense is just horrible. And as much as me and Jack sort of hopped on this, Geno Smith is, this is the Geno Smith renaissance of sorts, and he's a great quarterback, and he's so efficient, and blah, blah, blah. It turns out that maybe some of those stats we're looking at were bolstered by the fact that Seattle never really played that many good defenses. And whenever they did play good defenses, they looked horrible. So what I'm thinking here is that San Francisco probably just rolls. I don't see any reason why San Francisco probably doesn't roll. Their defense is excellent. Seattle's shown me nothing when they've played an elite defense. They haven't played San Francisco particularly well this season. And Seattle can't stop anyone still, particularly rushing the ball. They can't stop anyone who runs it well. That's really San Francisco's bread and butter with Christian McCaffrey, the trade they made sort of mid-season, that big blockbuster trade. So I see no reason why San Francisco won't cruise here. I generally, if you've been listening to this show, John certainly knows this. I don't love laying big amounts of points. I particularly don't like laying big amounts of points in the playoffs, but I think San Francisco has to be the play here, minus 9.5. I mean, Seattle's just not that good. They snuck into the playoffs. I loved it. We all looked like geniuses for saying they were going to make the playoffs from like week 5 onwards, but the reality is they're just not a very good team. So I think San Francisco's got to be the play here, minus 9.5.
All right, Nate's going with the home fav, 9.5, and this is no pick Nate, who never lays big points. Either does Jack, who's up next. Jack, you got Nate here saying 9.5, a lot of wood, but that Niners defense is suffocating. They're actually fun to watch. It almost reminds me, Jack, of the Ravens defense back when they beat the Giants in that Super Bowl that year. I forget, 2000 to 2001 or something. I forget exactly when it was, but you and I were there in Tampa. And I remember just the two of us watching that Ravens defense live. It just was unbelievable. And I think the Giants scored a touchdown on a punt return, and that was it. They kept them out of the end zone. What do you see here, Jack? 9.5 is a lot of wood.
Yeah, it is a lot of wood, but excuse me. There's a couple things I think we should look at when it comes to trends, how both teams have been playing. As Nate says, it's been really rough going for the Seahawks because their defense stinks. They're not covering any spread. Meanwhile, the Niners have been covering large spreads since November. November 21st, week 11, they played the Cardinals. Spread was minus 10. They covered that. They held the Cardinals to 10 points. New Orleans, November 27th, they shut out New Orleans 13-0. Spread was 9.5. New Orleans and Seattle aren't that much different of a team. December 4th, 33-17 against the Dolphins, covered a 4.5 spread. December 11th, the Bucks, 35 held the Bucks to 7, 3.5 spread. Washington, December 24th, Christmas Eve, 6.5 spread. They covered that. They held Washington 20 points. Cardinals again, 38-13 last week. 14-point spread, and they covered that. So they're covering large spreads because their defense is crazy good. Brock Purdy's undefeated. He's never lost a game, even though he is a rookie quarterback. This is an insane run. Now, let's go to the Seahawks. We were on the Seahawks early because Geno Smith's efficiency numbers were so good that they were able to cover small spreads where they were the underdog or a very slight favorite in order to sort of catch some value there. Well, what happened is Geno became less efficient people got on the Seahawks, so the spreads became the favorite. And when they're the favorite or the spread is sort of small, they're just losing games.
Right.
Even when they're the underdog, they're losing games. They at least they're losing the spread against the spread. They're 1 2 3 4 5 6. They're 1-7 in their last 8 games against the spread. They covered a game against the Jets. Wow, that's exciting. 23-6. They got 1 point. Other than that, they're getting blown out by everybody, and they're not scoring, and they're definitely not scoring on good defenses. They played San Francisco December 15th, not that long ago. They lost 21-13. Brock Purdy was the quarterback then. The spread was 3. The under was 42.5. This team their defense isn't ready for this type of game, and Geno Smith has to play incredible for them to cover. I don't think anyone expects them to win a game, but they're going to need Geno Smith to play like he was in week 1 or 2 against bad defenses in order to win any of these games. Now, the Niners are just on fire against the spread. They're 4-0 in their last 4 games after allowing less than 15 points. They're 4-0 in their last Saturday games. They're 8-0 in their last 8 versus NFC West teams. 8-0 against the spread in NFC West teams. I mean, that alone.
And think about that. 8-0 against NFC West teams, and part of that was with Purdy, like you said, Mr. Irrelevant. But you look at this Niners team; they're surging. Right, a lot of these games that they're winning, they've covered the spread. Like I said, they've been blowouts, and Seattle's going backwards. So I mean, this is a tough spot for Seattle to go. Coupled with the fact that playing in San Francisco, and where do they play? Santa Clara. I mean, it's not the easiest place to play. Those fans are pretty rabid there. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on. 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 home games. 6-1 in their last 7 games on grass.
Right.
5-1 against the spread following a win. I mean, they're killing it against the spread. I think some of that is because the spread is sometimes short because of Purdy, but it wasn't short last week, and they covered that as well. They cover these big spreads. 9.5 is not that much to lay in a game that might be lopsided. 23-10, 25-9, whatever. I'm not a big fan of laying the points, but I'm laying the points here as well, minus 9.5. We're all kind of off the Seahawks. We wanted them to make the playoffs. That was what we needed. We needed them to make the playoffs because of our huge future bets. Nate hit a bunch there, but we don't need them to win the Super Bowl, and they're not going to. I love Geno Smith. I love the story, but this team is probably headed for an early exit, facing an incredibly talented Niners defense with a quarterback that has been playing as though he's been in the league 10 years, not 10 days.
Well, it's that Shanahan offense that you really got to hand it. Coaching matters, culture matters. That's my column on GodzillaWins.com. Culture matters, coaching matters. I mean, that offense that Shanahan has is so simple. Basically, you can insert anybody in there. It's manage the game, short passes, get to the sticks, and then get back to their defense. I mean, that's basically how they've played this. I think right now San Francisco is the most dangerous team in the NFC. I'm with you guys. I'm going to lay the 9.5. I'm not blinking an eye because Seattle doesn't score. And so I don't see him putting up 10 maybe in this game, 13 max. That means you're laying 10, and their defense is horrible. I mean, San Francisco does score. So I love the Niners here minus the 9.5 at home. I think Seattle, and you got to remember to even get to the point where they're in instead of the Lions, they have to beat the Jets in overtime, with their 5th string quarterback and there, and they barely did that. Right? I think it was 9-6 in overtime. So they're not scoring either. I think we're all in agreement here. None of us see Seattle winning the game. And my thing, when you're betting in the playoffs, right? If you don't think the underdog can win the game, either don't bet it or bet the fav, because you're hoping for a backdoor cover in the playoffs. That just doesn't happen a lot. I like the Niners here as well. Go ahead.
Hold on. I mean, that does happen. I think it's a bad strategy to just say, well, if they can't win, don't bet the underdog. That's ridiculous. It's all about the spread. We've been fighting with you about that for all season. That's like one of your theories that doesn't seem to ever be attached to any type of logic. Now, the problem with wild card weekend with 7 teams in the playoffs is you just get some lopsided matchups. So going forward in the divisional round, there's going to be a lot of value in some of these underdogs that are going to keep these games pretty close, especially if the spread is 6 or 7 in a divisional round. That's like Halloween, Katie, take it. But as far as this week in this particular spot, the Niners have been covering big spreads, so it's not a bad play to pick the Niners here.
Well, yeah, and look, especially with the fact what you said in the wild card weekend, and you got an expanded playoff format with 7 teams. Seattle would not be in this thing, right? So expanded it to 7. So yeah, you get a weaker entrant. That's where I think you get the value here, is betting against these 7 seeds going on the road. So look, we're all in agreement with this. We love the Niners minus the 9.5. So, okay, we're going to move on. We're in the Getter Live chat. You guys want to get in the chat? Tell us what you think. We'd love to have you there on our Getter chat. Just go to Getter Live and just put in John Fredericks Show. Boom, you're there. You're on live and you're good to go. Okay, let's get to the second game, which is going to be 8:15 tonight, which is my best bet of the weekend. I always call them San Diego, right? Chargers, LA Chargers, I guess now, going to Jacksonville. Chargers opened at 1, they went to 1.5, then they went to 2, then they went to 2.5, then they went to 3. Now they're back down on DraftKings to 2.5 point favorite over Jacksonville. I think this is going to be a lively discussion for us, but this is my best bet of the weekend. I love the Bolts coming in here to Jacksonville and winning this game outright and winning it big. Jacksonville just not that good, guys. You can do all the hype you want with Trevor Lawrence and the NFL. He was a number 1 pick and they love him and blah, blah, blah. You're going to get all the, ESPN is drooling over this guy with the hair. He's a good quarterback. This team is just not that great. Tennessee had a beat last week with half a team again. Half the guys out on defense, no offensive line, a quarterback that had 1 NFL start, was on the practice squad of another team, I think the Lions 2 weeks ago. And if they get 1 more first down at the end of that game, they run out the clock and win. And this was in Jacksonville. And we both know that Tennessee this year, which was 7-10, my team, was really a disaster, right? Everything went wrong for them. They lost 7 in a row. Yet they almost came into Jacksonville. They get 1 first down. They don't do a scoop and score. The guy's arm's going forward. They run out the clock and win that game. And now Chargers are going to Nashville. So Jacksonville's not that good. Now, you can look at the Chargers and say, well, look at their record, et cetera. Look, they got hot at the end, just like you guys were talking about San Francisco. One thing about these playoffs, team that gets hot, like Bengals last season, team that gets hot is the one you got to watch. Chargers had a lot of injuries at the beginning. A lot of their offense was out. A lot of their receivers, Jack and Nate, were out. All of a sudden, they're coming back. Hebert scoring. Jacksonville's defense is not that great, right? Last week, one-dimensional. All they had to do was stop Henry. They got to practice quarterback. Not going to have that here with the Chargers. They're not going to have that luxury. I love the Chargers going in this game in Jacksonville. It's warm, no cold, no ice. Winning this game, I don't even think it's going to be close. I love the Bolts minus the 2.5. Let's go to Nate and Reno.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I think that the Chargers are the right play here. I know that Jack is going to disagree with me here in a second, but I think that the Chargers just have more paths to win, I guess. Is Jacksonville, I'm not sold on them. Yes, we were high on them all season. No, they didn't look awesome during that some large portions of that, right? They lost 5 games in a row to the Eagles, who are actually a good team. Then they lost to the Texans, Colts, Giants, and Broncos, who are not good teams, right? The Giants made the playoffs, but I don't think anyone's sitting here thinking the Giants are an awesome team. So the Jaguars aren't that great. They really just got in because Tennessee totally fell apart, like you were saying. That being said, I mean, Jacksonville's tricky. I agree with you in that I love the Chargers. They're sort of my biggest play too. But just to speak on Jacksonville for a minute, Doug Peterson shouldn't be counted out in any playoff game. He's 4-2 in the playoffs. He had that 3-0 run when he won the Super Bowl with Philly in 2017. And he won that Super Bowl with Philly in 2017 with a horrible quarterback, with Nick Foles, right? And he managed to get 375 yards out of Nick Foles for the Super Bowl. They won. They beat the Patriots, blah, blah, blah. So I think that Doug Peterson has some sort of playoff magic, and I think that he's really good at coaching in these sort of intense games. But I just think that the Jags are probably a little bit too one-dimensional. I think they really only have one way to win, and it's basically on the arm of Trevor Lawrence. They have to pass the ball. It's really their biggest strength as a team. They rank 6th in DVOA efficiency stuff in passing. They actually move up to 5th if you sort of filter it out from week 10 onwards. But the Chargers are really good on defense, and they're really good at defending the pass. So I think it sort of neutralizes that. The Chargers have sort of funky stats and metrics because they were injured so much. They had huge injuries all along the offensive line. They had huge defensive injuries in the secondary and defensive line. Wide receivers were basically all injured at some point this season. Herbert was hurt at one point with bruised ribs. So I don't think the stats tell the true story with the Chargers. I think that some of what we're doing when we look at the Chargers is sort of leaning on our preseason speculation that they would be a really good team in the AFC West, and then they just fell apart with injuries. So now we're sort of getting the team that we were expecting this whole time, and I think they're just a better team all around. I think they're better offensively. I think they're better defensively. If they can just not have Brandon Staley blow a game for them coaching-wise, he already sort of tried to mess up their playoffs last week when he got Joey Bosa and Mike Williams hurt. It looks like Mike Williams is going to be out. I think Joey Bosa we're still waiting on news for him. So, coaching aside, Brandon Staley is a total liability and Doug Peterson's actually good. But in terms of just talent on the teams, Jaguars feel like they're still like maybe a year away from being really an elite team.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way.
I think the Chargers are now. Yeah.
Look, I think next year, and everybody made fun of, what was it, that the Titans were in the AFC South with, Jacksonville, Texans, and the Colts. I mean, the Texas and Indianapolis have got a lot of issues there, but Tennessee is going to get, hopefully next season they're going to get a good draft, get healthy, and that's going to be that those two teams are going to be in a dogfight now for a while until Henry gets old and retires. So we'll have to see what happens there. But the other thing is San Diego's receivers were out for half the season, and I mean they got a passing offense. So they had no wide receivers. That was the other issue with them. All right, so Nate, I'm with you there. Jack, I know you're going to be the naysayer on our Chargers bandwagon here.
Yeah, you guys are like everybody else. It's just you guys think that the Chargers are going to win because for some reason they're good and they're not, and they're horrible without Mike Williams. By the way, they stink. They don't beat anybody without their best receiver. So we can start there. Williams is out because Brandon Staley did what one coach every year does, and he played all his starters for way too long in a game that was meaningless in order to keep the momentum up or whatever. Brandon Staley's the biggest liability on the Chargers. You know this. I know this. Everybody knows this. They're not at home. They have to go to Jacksonville. I don't care. Make fun of Jacksonville all you want. I watched that Tennessee game live. It was loud in that fourth quarter. After the scoop and score, Dobbs couldn't hear anything. That place is going to be very difficult to play in. Y'all can go, ha, 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 it's Jacksonville, whatever. I've been living in the Southeast my entire life. Nate's been here maybe 5 times. He doesn't understand that there are Jacksonville fans everywhere, and they're crazy passionate about this team. Just because they stink or traditionally have stunk doesn't mean they're not out there. I know tons of Jacksonville fans. They're everywhere. They're going to be at this game. It's going to be nuts. So that's number one. Brandon Staley is the biggest liability. Doug Peterson, as Nate said, is an incredibly well-prepared coach. He's going to be giving this team a little bit more of an edge. He went on that incredible Super Bowl run with a Phillies team, Nate, that wasn't that good, with a quarterback that can't throw the ball anywhere anymore. So this is a coach who gets a lot out of a little for his players. Now, I also don't agree with this analysis that the Jags are not as good as the Chargers in some sort of efficiency metrics. Offensively, they are, like Nate said, 5th or 6th in passing. ETN can run the ball. They might be 20th in rushing DVOA, but some of those numbers are due to the fact that they played some really good rushing defenses this year. ETN is a pretty big part of their offense, and I think that the Jags are going to rely on him a lot to move the ball downfield and take some of the pressure off Lawrence. Yeah, Lawrence missed some big throws last week. I don't think he misses those this week, even though the Chargers do have a pretty good passing defense.
I'll agree with you there. Look, and as a Titans fan watching this game, we lucked out because Lawrence missed 2 passes. You know, one guy wide open in the end zone. They have to settle for 3 instead of 7. That's 4 there. And ETN, but the Titans took him out. The Titans have the best run defense in the NFL. I think at the end of the season, they were better than San Francisco. And I think ETN got 32 yards last week. They could not run the ball. That is, I mean, I'll grant you this. It's going to be a little bit easier against the Chargers run defense. So I do see them running the ball. But look, your analysis aside here, I mean, Jacksonville's pass defense, you have to question it, right? You have to question it. They lucked out against Tennessee because there was no passing game. They have no receivers and they had no quarterback, so they were relying on one guy. So I just don't see how those dynamics play into this game. If Abear gets hot, I'm telling you, this thing, Jack's going to be a blowout.
Who's he going to throw to? He throws to Mike Williams. That's his guy. Mike Williams isn't playing. So I'm not here to talk about...
Keenan Allen is playing.
Great. Cool. That's 35 points right there. Come on. Mike Williams is the reason this team is where they are. When he doesn't play, they aren't any good. Brandon Staley made a horrible decision last week. He's not going to be playing this week. They think that, they can get by. Maybe next week he'll play, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about Keenan Allen. This team can't score without Mike Williams. Not like they can with him. They're not as efficient. And, you can say, look at all the numbers, all the efficiency numbers. They're not that good, but, they've been hurt. Well, they're hurt now. They're hurt now. Like Mike Williams is the X factor in that game. Without him, this team doesn't do what they are designed to do.
Look, I mean, you're basing on one guy. I get it. So it sounds like here, put your pick in. So you like the Jags, right? Plus the 2.5 here.
I have the Jags 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. So I like the Jags until the Jags lose. I'm going with the Jags until, I got, I locked that in a couple weeks ago, and I'm just rolling with the Jags as far as they go. But as far as this game goes, yeah, I like them plus 2.5, and we can move on. But this is going to be one of those games where next week y'all are going to be licking your wounds and talking about how Jacksonville's going to lose this week. That was a fluke game. If it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that, that's what you guys are always doing. Just, do your analysis, make some good picks. Jags plus 2.5, baby.
Well, if you want to lose your money, that's fine. All right. So we have a little difference on that. Nate and I love the Bolts minus the 2.5. Jack's going to take the Jags at home with the spread. We'll see what happens there. Okay. That's going to round out tonight. Then we got to get to games. We got tomorrow, and then we got Monday. So let's get to that. First, though, I got to tell you that our segment is brought to you by our great friends at DraftKings. You want to bet any of these games, they get the best offer, guys, going on right now. All you got to do is go to DraftKings. If you're in a state where it's allowed, download their free app. Boom. Put in promo code Godzilla. Get this. You put $5 in. You can't go to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee, which I don't go to Starbucks, but if you did, it's over. Last time I went there with my daughter, she bought us some kind of a latte. It was like $7.90, right? You can't go to Starbucks for $5. You put that in your account. Here's what you get. You bet that $5 on any team, Jacksonville, right? Chargers, whatever you like. You get $200 instantly in free bets. Instantly in free bets. You just can't beat that. Instant. So then you got $200 in your account, win or lose, to play with. All you got to do is go to DraftKings, best app you're going to find. Download their app, put in promo code Godzilla, put in $5, bet $5 on any team we pick today. You're going to get instantly $200 in free bets. That could carry you through the playoffs. If you get on a roll with us, you can turn that into a couple thousand and you put $5 in. It's got to be the best offer out there ever. Just do that. Go to DraftKings.com, promo code Godzilla. You're good to go. Okay, let's get to the game tonight. Let's get to the game tomorrow. Kind of a sad game because we got Miami getting into the playoffs, having lost all those games in a row, but they did win last week finally. So they get in and they got to go to Buffalo with no quarterback Buffalo's minus 13.5. And I call this a sad game, folks, because I would have liked to see Tua healthy. I would have liked to see the Dolphins, go to Buffalo again. I mean, remember, they went there a couple of weeks ago in the snow, right? And, they played a very, very competitive game. Buffalo came back and beat them at the end and covered. But the Dolphins were right there. They played a very spirited game that week. But, now they go in. They don't have their quarterback. They haven't looked particularly good in the last, five. They lost 5 in a row. Then they, I guess, beat the Jets last week. So I got that mixed up earlier. So they won that game to get in, or whoever they beat. So they get in last week. Who they beat?
The Dolphins beat the Jets like 11-6.
Yeah, 11. By the way, you talk about weird cover. I won that game last week. I think I laid 4.5. So they're up by 3. Clock's running out. 2 seconds. Jets get the kickoff and do that lateral thing, and it ends up out of the end zone for a safety as time runs out, giving them 2 points, which then was the difference between at 4.5 covering and not covering. So I finally won one of those games that I normally lose. But look, I mean, this is a sad game because you want to see Tua, you want him healthy. I mean, they're going into Buffalo, no quarterback. I mean, they are going to get just crushed here, guys. They lost 5 out of 6, barely won that game last week. So I don't see, again, if you're going to take the 13.5 and, pop a beer open and say, well, maybe there'll be a cover. I mean, does anybody really think the Dolphins are going to be competitive in this game without Tua? And I'll start with Jack.
I don't know. No, I mean, probably not. 13 is so many points to lay in a playoff game. Right. It makes you nervous. But, Skylar Thompson is not Teddy Bridgewater, and he's not Tua. The Dolphins are cold as ice. They backed into the playoffs just like the Seahawks. They are 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 road games. They're 0-4 against the spread after allowing less than 90 yards rushing. They're 0-4 in their last 4 games following a straight-up loss against the spread. They're 0-4-1 in their last 5 road games versus a winning record. I can't give you a trend that points to the Dolphins. Meanwhile, Buffalo, of course, is pretty hot. 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games in Week 15. 9-3-2 against the spread following a loss. There's a lot going on there. So, I think that without Tua, Skylar didn't look very good. You never really know, but it's not like he's not like Brock Purdy, and the offense was designed for Tua specifically, it seems like. And so it's hard to stick another quarterback in there. Buffalo's defense has been playing better as of late. They covered against New England, I believe, and New England had something to play for in that game. They covered against Chicago the week before. They're at home. You've got the Damar Hamlin kind of emotional factor here. So there's 2 ways you could think about this. Maybe Nate won't agree with me, but maybe he will. You could tease it like you could tease this game down to 7, take a teaser -6, and tease it with maybe like the Niners -3.5. You got to give up some of the juice. But if you're just nervous with the 13, you could do that.
See, I actually, look, I never play teasers, but if I did, I love that play, right? Because nobody said you can't see the Dolphins winning this game. And the Seahawks are not going to go to Santa Clara and beat the Niners. So it's really a matter of fact, do they cover? So if you bet a 2-team teaser, right, you get 6. So I've never bet a teaser in my life ever. I don't even know how to bet it. I guess it's easy when you go to DraftKings, so I don't do exotic betting. But if I ever did, this would be it, right? Because you'd bet Buffalo down to 7.5, and then you'd bet the Niners would be down to 3.5. So that actually, I like that play, Jack.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, and let's just pause, just kind of explain teasers for anyone listening who might not know. So basically, a teaser is you could take 2, 3, 4 teams, whatever you want. And instead of playing the spread, whatever the bookmaker has made the spread, you can come off the points. So if 13 is too many for you and you want to tease them with another team, you can tease them -7. That gets you down to 6. Well, that's a key number, and that's a pretty good number The Niners, if minus 9.5 is too much, you could take -7, and that gets you down to 2.5, or you can do 6 for both of them. And then the juice will depend. So instead of it being -110 for juice, where you pay a little bit of a vig, it's minus 120 or 140. But if it makes you nervous to lay 13, I don't know if I can play 13 with the Dolphins with a quarterback like this. But you never know. They have good receivers, and I don't know. But their defense stinks, so I cannot recommend taking the Dolphins here. Minus 13 feels like too much, so I'd probably tease it down. Nate, what do you think?
Don't tease this game. So when you're doing teasers, a lot of times what you want to do is cross key numbers like 3 and 7. So if you want to tease a game, do it with a team like Tampa, who's plus 2.5, you get 8.5 if you do a 6-point teaser, right? Do it with a team like the Ravens, who are plus 9, or not the Ravens. Do it with the Bengals. You take it from -9 to -3, or -8.5 to -2.5. You really want to cross more key numbers. You don't want to do it on these big spreads just because it's not as meaningful. Higher key numbers like 10 or 13. So don't tease this game. Just play the Bills. The Bills just roll here. I mean, the Dolphins just aren't any good. Skylar Thompson's just way out of his depth here. They average like 13.5 points when Skylar Thompson has taken the majority of the snaps. God forbid he gets hurt. I don't know who plays quarterback. I don't know if Teddy's healthy enough to play quarterback. So that's a whole nother disaster that could be awaiting them. I think that Buffalo just rolls here. Josh Allen is just so good in the playoffs, and Miami's defense is just pitiful. The one thing that I also like is that we should probably just briefly is I played the Josh Allen over 259.5 passing yards is the line that I had at my sports book. He's averaged 352 yards a game in 2 games against the Dolphins passing. I see no reason why he won't this time around, unless they just totally get off to a huge lead, and for some reason they just totally shut him down. So I like the Bills here to roll. I like the Josh Allen over on the passing props if you can find them. This game just doesn't look close to me. Miami's just not the same team without Tua. They really aren't, and they need him to be there because the defense is such a liability.
The props bet is an interesting one because 259 feels low, but if you feel like the Bills are going to roll, Josh Allen's going to either come out of that game or they're just going to hand it off 100 times. The Dolphins can't really stop the run either. So I don't know. I mean, I hear you with the over, but you really got to play these games like, what do you think is going to happen? But, Allen could get to 300 yards pretty quickly. So that's good. Also take a look at Josh Allen's total rushing yards over. They tend to rely on his legs a lot in the playoffs. Nate and I have talked about that before. So whatever that rushing prop total is, Josh Allen's over on that is probably a pretty safe bet. Most likely he's going to run a lot in the first 2 quarters, and you may hit that early. I've hit that before in some of these big games. So there's a couple props there. And if you go to GodzillaWins.com, we'll have some prop bets up for you. We'll get about 3 or 4 for both today and tomorrow. So you just got to go to GodzillaWins.com to look at that stuff.
I tell you what, and if you haven't been on GodzillaWins.com, obviously it's our site. Jack runs it. He's the editor, Nate's a contributor. I write for it, but it's really a great site. And we're going to build this thing. I mean, our vision with Godzilla Wins is you're going to get winners, you're going to get picks, you're going to get analysis, but we got good writers. And a lot of the young people we've got coming in, Jack is coaching them. And so again, if you got a niece, you got a nephew, you got somebody in your family, you got a son, you got a daughter that, or yourself listening now, and you want to write about your favorite team, we're good with that. Right? I only write football about the Titans, right? Baseball, I only write about the Astros. I don't care about the other teams. Everybody knows I hate everybody else. That's all I write about. So that's good though, if you want to do that, or if you just want to do your analysis or be a handicapper, as long as you can write and take coaching as a young person. We're looking for writers to build this site. It's a real opportunity to get involved. All you have to do is go to GodzillaWins.com, and there'll be a little icon, Jack, on the site there that says, hey, if you're interested in writing, here's the contact form, and Jack will check it out. So really good opportunity. And look, sports writing is a profession, guys. It's not going away, right? I mean, NFL right now is bigger than ever. MLB is bigger than ever. college basketball bigger than ever, college football bigger than ever. It's not going away. You got all these sites, all these blogs, all these opportunities to get into the business. And here we got an entry-level way for you to do that. There's nothing that, look, my son Jack, who you're hearing right now, he's a teacher, right? Nate, who's in Reno, he's a teacher, right? We love to teach young people how to get in the business. And it's part of why we did this. So it's a lot of fun. And you can go there, go to GodzillaWins.com. Plus the content's fantastic. And we got stuff up there every day. So check that out. All right. So let's get our picks official. Nate, so 13.5, you're all right with this, right?
Yep. I'll lay the points.
Yeah, you're going to lay the points. I'm laying 13.5. Not the kind of bet that I'm going to make on the Chargers, which is going to be probably much bigger than the Bills. Only because 13.5 is a lot. You could get a backdoor cover, which I hate if I don't have the back door, but it's happened to me so many times. But I like the Bills here. I don't see the Dolphins winning this game, and I don't even think it's going to be close. So I like the Bills. And Jack, sounds like you're on the same page as well.
Yeah, Bills minus 13.5. There's some parity in some of these games we're about to talk about.
Okay, now let's go to let's go to a good parity game and go to Minnesota, where you got the Giants going to Minnesota, and the Vikings are 3 in this game. I find this to be a fascinating game on the card, right? Because you look at this Giants team, and I didn't like them early. Then they kind of got hot. I bet them a few times. Then they kind of got down to earth. Somehow they're in the playoffs now, and I don't even think they're the number 7 seed, right? They're the number 5 or 6 seed. I think they're the 6 seed. Yeah, Dallas is 5. They're 6. So the Giants are in the playoff. They're going to Minnesota. Minnesota had a big game last week. The Vikings won 14 games or 14-3 or something, and they're at home. And you look at this, you say, why are they only 3? Nate, why is this game only 3?
Well, this game is only 3 because Minnesota's not very good. What we're looking at in this matchup is 2 of the luckiest, weirdest teams in the NFL, right? So, I mean, the Vikings had basically almost nothing to differentiate them point differential wise for the season. And they were 11-0 in 1-score games, which is just an insane stat. That's just nuts. The Giants themselves were really good in 1-score games. They're 8-4-1. So these teams just play a lot of close games, and they get really fortunate in a lot of these close games in ways that are really tough to quantify and in ways that aren't really, from a sports handicapping point of view, particularly what we'd consider predictive, right? Neither of these teams have really good underlying stats. Both of them have pretty bad defenses, but their defenses just sort of seem to pull it together at the very last moment. So from that perspective, it's a tough game to handicap because both of these teams are way overperforming what any of their sort of metrics would suggest about them. So we were talking about teasers. If you wanted to tease this game, this is a good spot, right? This is a good spot to tease the Giants up, get them from 3 to 9. So I like the Giants. If you wanted to tease them here, this would be a good spot for it. I kind of just like the Giants just generally in this game, just because these teams tend to play so many close games. So that's sort of where I'm at with it, is I'll just take the points in a game that's just really hard to predict and sort of handicap and analyze from any sort of traditional perspective. I'm inclined to just take the points with the underdog and just hope for another close game. So I'll be on the Giants here. What do you guys think?
Jack?
Yeah. So if a team is 11-0 in 1-score games, then take the underdog, because more than likely, even if the Vikings win, they're not going to blow anybody out. They never do that. The Vikings' efficiency numbers are so bad. It's crazy that they're as good as they are record-wise. The Giants have the 7th best offense for rush DVOA. They're the 7th best in that category. And they pass the ball pretty well, too. They're 10th in passing. Meanwhile, over here on offense, the Vikings, who you kind of think of as an offensive team, are 15th in pass DVOA, 28th in run. They can't run the ball. Defensively, the Giants struggle. So this is where it's going to be a problem for New York, because they can't stop the run at all, but that's okay because Minnesota doesn't run the ball. They can't really stop the pass either. So you're kind of hoping that some of these defensive backs that are healthy now that were hurt for most of the season for the Giants can lock up Justin Jefferson. But what does that mean? I mean, Justin Jefferson's going to eat regardless. So I'm inclined to take the Giants because I think they just match up really well with this team. I do think it's hard to play in Minnesota. They got the horn that blows like every 10 minutes, which I think is tough. You know, that horn.
I love that.
I mean,
I love that horn.
I know.
I love that horn and the way they blow that.
Yeah, and the skull, you know, I mean, I've got some friends who are Minnesota fans. I don't know why, and they're just rabid Minnesota fans. They're always go to those games. They don't live anywhere near Minneapolis. They're always flying in to watch those games because people, you know, those Vikings fans are really passionate. So it'll be a hard atmosphere, but I just kind of like Brian Daboll in this spot. I don't think that the Vikings can cover this game. And to be honest with you, I kind of like the Vikings money line. I think this is probably the team that really upsets a big divisional winner. But that's not like a. You said you like the Giants. You meant you like the Giants money line. Yeah, sorry, Giants money line, and Giants +3. I like both of those. All right, I can't. So both you guys are on the Giants. I can't believe you guys are buying into this New York Giants hype. I mean, this team is like smoke and mirrors. I mean, I put them below Jacksonville. I think this is the weakest entrant. I put them if they were playing Seattle. I bet the Seahawks. Look, this team is a facade. They didn't beat anybody. They beat nobody. They beat the Titans. They caught them blind. Look, if Fat Randy makes a field goal at the end of the game, a chip shot, even with the turnovers the Titans had, and all the way back to week 1, they get beat there. Team is not that good. How do you? They're going to Minnesota. Hold on. You guys are buying into the New York press Giants hype, right? That's all you're doing. Let's just pause. How do you work in the Titans in a Giants-Vikings playoff preview? The Giants played the Titans week 1, and you're talking about the Titans. Get over it. Titans are out. Move on. Tell me why the Vikings are going to win. We don't care that your team lost in week 1. It's over. Move on. I can't move on. I never move on. But yes, you're right. It was week 1. I will always leave Tennessee. September. Look. I'll find a way to. I'm the classic weaver. I will find a way to weave Tennessee in, just like I find a way to weave Trump into every conversation when I'm not doing football. I will find a way. But look, this team. This is New York hype. This team is smoke and mirrors. They've beaten nobody. And you can sit there and say, "Oh, the Vikings don't cover. Oh, the Vikings this. Oh, the Vikings that. Oh, they're not that good. Oh, this that." They got 14 wins. They're beating somebody. They go out and win every single week. They're at home in that dome with that crazy bell horn they got, you know, with the purple people eaters, the ghost of Bud Grant. Yes, they don't look that good when you watch them. But is Kirk Cousins going to lose this game? Here's what you got to ask yourself. Is Kirk Cousins going to lose this game? Answer, no. Is he going to manage it? And maybe it's 5 or 6. Yeah, that's what he does. Is he going to throw 3 picks and a pick 6 and lose this game? No, it's not what he does, right? You like that, as he said? I love the Vikings here, winning handily. And, you know, if the Giants get behind, what the hell are they going to do? If the score is, if it's 17-3, you guys are going to look me in the eye and tell me the Giants have some kind of an offensive juggernaut to come back and get in this game against a legit Vikings defense? This is the underplay of the card. This game should be 7. It's 3. Why? Vikings don't cover, right? They're not very flashy. You don't kind of get excited about them. And you got all the New York hype and all the Giants money that goes to Vegas because you got so many Giants fans. That's why this game is 3. This game should be 7. I love the Vikings. Coupled with the fact that Giants barely beat Washington twice. I love Minnesota in this game. My second best bet along with the Bolts. You look for value in these playoffs. This is a value game, guys. So, all right, we got a couple other games.
No value.
I go on the record. I love the Vikings. Look, I'm going to be right. You guys are going to be crying in your beer on Sunday when you look at your DraftKings account. There's no money in it, and I look at mine and I'm like, going to have a nice weekend coming up. So we'll see. I love the Vikings here, -3. Okay, next game on the card: Ravens at Bengals. Bengals hot as a pepper at home. Joey Burrow. This guy's something else, Nate. He's got no fear. I'll give you that. what did he say the other day? They said, well, how long do you think the Bengals will, be able to be a Super Bowl contender? He says, as long as I'm under center. I mean, the guy's something else. If he, when they were handing out Ubers, he was at the front of the line. No question about it. But that's how you win in this league. They're at home, but the problem with the Ravens, no Lamar Jackson. I mean, you cannot, and I hate to keep betting the favorites here, but how the hell do you bet, Nate, how do you bet Baltimore without Lamar Jackson? I mean, it's a totally different team. It'd be like, oh, you want me to do a Titans thing? It would be like betting Tennessee in the playoffs without Derrick Henry. Forget it. I don't see the Ravens even being in this game. And I think Burrow lights them up. How are they going to score? 8.5, lay it over. Nate?
This is, I was waiting for you to do the square thing, and you did it finally. You can't lay 9 here with the Bengals.
What's the square thing? What's the square thing?
You were doing the square thing where you're like, oh, Joe Burrow's so good, and the Ravens don't have a quarterback, and so the spread doesn't even matter. And that's what you do all the time. I think that the spread does matter here. 9 points is a lot of points, and the Ravens play good defense. The Ravens have good defense. They have good special teams, and the Bengals have been playing well, but they also have some injuries that make them vulnerable. They've lost, two members of their offensive line, so Joe Burrow is going to have to deal with that. The protection is going to be worse. They lost a key piece in the secondary. Awutie's out. So the secondary is a little bit vulnerable there. Yes, the Ravens don't look very good without Lamar Jackson. That's true. And Anthony Brown is a total liability. But, Tyler Huntley might play. It looks sort of promising. It looks like he's sort of been throwing the ball and has been at least sort of a little bit effective when doing so. So he may play. Ultimately, I think that the Ravens just can keep this close. They just run the ball and play good defense and just hope that something shakes out their way. I think this is a low-scoring game. These divisional games tend to be that way, particularly when you get divisional games in the playoffs. And so I sort of like it. And road division teams in the first 2 rounds, here's a weird stat, are 13-4-1 against the spread. So, there's precedence for this. Obviously, Harbaugh knows his team well. For the Ravens, so I like the Ravens here. This is the one where I think the upset could happen. I think the Ravens could upset the Bengals here. I like the Ravens plus the points. I also like the under 40.
So you're going to sit here on this show, and I love you like a Sunday in Reno, and you're going to tell me that you're going to bet Todd Hundley over Joey Burrow at home in a playoff game, and actually think that the Ravens have any chance to win this game with Todd Hundley over Joey Burrow.
Well, or Anthony Brown. I mean, it might be Brown that plays, but yeah, either Tyler Huntley or Anthony Brown. Yeah, I just think that this is a sneaky spot for the Ravens here.
All right. I think you're delusional. Jack?
So go to GodzillaWins.com. We've got our Ravens senior analyst, Peter Kryball, who has some thoughts on this game. You can read that. Just scroll down where you see Flying with the Flock and click on the first article. I'm just going to read to you his thoughts, and then I'm going to make my pick. This is what he says. Ravens superfan, senior contributor. This is Peter. Everything about the Bengals rubs me the wrong way. Joe Burrow saying the team's Super Bowl window is, quote, his whole career at the post-game presser while wearing his pompous white turtleneck sweater saturated with the smoke of the locker room cigar he lit up after a regular season game just summarizes everything that irks me about him. It's obvious that the Bengals are fat and fed, ready to rest on their laurels and cruise their way to another Super Bowl. But they aren't ready for the scrappy, pissed-off Ravens team that awaits them in the first round. Savor this moment, Bengals fans, because this time next week, your team will be watching from the couch as the Ravens advance to the divisional round. I'm taking the Ravens. I'm going with Peter, baby. Ravens.
All right. I don't see it. Todd Hundley, Anthony Jackson, or whatever his name is.
Anthony
but
Brown.
Look, Anthony Brown. If somehow the Ravens, if somehow they can, win and get Lamar back, then they're, then they got a shot to beat anybody. But this team is based their winning is based on one guy. His name is Lamar Jackson. He's not playing. That's why I like the Bengals. Okay. Time is running out here. Here's the big one. Monday night. And I love the Monday night angle that the NFL has done. I have to hand it to them. I love the Monday night angle, although I have to go to bed. So that kind of sucks. But here's my other best bet. I'm going to start off. We got 6 minutes. Okay. Dallas going to Tampa. Dallas is -2.5. You got the GOAT. They got in the playoffs. I love Dallas here. I loved, I can't remember where I had it at the first week of the playoffs where I had 3 best bets. I love the Bolts -2.5. I love the Vikings -3. And maybe the best bet, even better than the Bolts, is I love Dallas here. Tampa Bay is dreadful. I mean, they shouldn't have won that division. I mean, if Mariota didn't throw like 19 interceptions in the final 5 weeks before they benched him and cut him, the Falcons are in the playoffs. The Saints could have been in the playoffs. This team is horrible. They got one old quarterback that does magic at the end. That's not going to keep up. It's kind of like Kansas City, right? 3rd and 17 and scrambling for a first down with Mahomes is not a game plan. I don't see. Look, I know Dak's got issues. Dallas has got a great defense. They got Parsons. This is a very good team. This is a dangerous team. They're going to go to Tampa. They're going to win this game outright. Not going to be close. I love Dak, Dallas, Parsons, -2.5. Because I think at the end of the day, you're going to get Dallas. It's either going to be Dallas or San Francisco or the Eagles going to the Super Bowl. But I love Dallas here, -2.5. Nate, you're a Dallas fan. Are you going to pick against your team again?
I think so.
Oh my God.
This game has been giving me a lot of anxiety, and I was texting Jack about it yesterday, and I've been afraid to even sort of handicap it because I knew it was going to cause me pain. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Dallas fan, obviously. I bet on Dallas to win the Super Bowl when they were like 18-1 a couple months ago. So, in my heart, I want the Cowboys to win. My head says they probably lose. Tom Brady's never lost to the Cowboys. He's 7-0 playing the Cowboys. Dak Prescott's 0-4 against the spread in the playoffs. Tom Brady's 3-0 against the spread and straight up as a playoff underdog. He's 22-7-2 lifetime as an underdog of 3 or less points. This just looks like the Tom Brady spot. They've tended to play up to their competition when they played good teams. The level of play for them has tended to rise to the occasion. I'm so used to Dallas doing this. Dallas would probably just lose this game. I think that the Bucs probably just win outright. If you want to tease it up and get, +8.5 for the Bucs, I think this is a good spot to do it. But I think that the Cowboys they just don't look like a team that is capable of making a deep playoff run right now. So I think the Bucs are probably the play.
Well, Rich Paxton on Getter Live says Cowboys looked like crap last week, and it's going to carry over to this week. The real Brady will show up. But look, I mean, it was a semi-meaningless game for them, right? After Philadelphia went up big. I mean, I just betting Tampa, betting this team. I mean, if they're in any other division, they don't even make the wild card. So reality sets in the playoffs, guys. This is reality. Dallas is a better team. Jack?
Yeah, I mean, you got to roll with
wrap us up.
Yeah, okay. You got to roll with the Dallas defensive line here. One thing we know about Tom Brady, regardless of all the trends, is he's not 32 years old. He's not benefiting from an amazing Patriots defense or Bill Belichick. I don't think Todd Bowles is ready for this spot. And when Tom Brady is pressured, he tends to struggle. He definitely tends to struggle at his age now because he can't move and he's scared of getting hit. So he throws the ball out of bounds or he checks down and they can't really move the ball. I think that the Cowboys roll here. I'm not saying they win by 20, but I think they can cover this short spread just based on the fact that if you like the Cowboys, you got to believe in their pass rush. And the Bucs like to run the ball as well. You can't really run on Dallas. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys here. Nate believes that this is the game where like the weird team that's not very good wins. And I think
it happens all the time.
It does. I think the game where that happens is the Jacksonville game. That's the game where the weird team that's not very good in Florida beats the team. I think Dallas advanced to the divisional round. Then we'll talk about next week about how Mike McCarthy can screw up a perfect position for them to advance by losing to the Eagles or something by 100. But the Cowboys roll here. They cover the spread. I'm going Cowboys all day. I'm not a believer in this Bucs team.
Okay. You like Dallas. I like Dallas. Nate, betting against this team, I just don't get that, Nate. I for the life of me, I can never figure out. I mean, I love you like a son, but you just put the bad juju out there. And when you're a team, even when you're betting football, like I know my friend Jimmy in Indy, right? We bet together. He does DraftKings. I mean, he bets the first bet he makes every week. He bets the Colts. He puts $100 on him. He goes from there, right? It's kind of what I do, right? First game I bet the Titans. I don't care what the spread is.
It's like the worst strategy.
I bet the Titans because it's bad juju. It's bad. If you're a fan of a team and you bet against them, it's the worst thing. It's karma. I mean, it's like all gets in the sky and the earth and it's under your feet. It's just bad. First bet I make is I bet my Titans. I get that 100 out, right? And then I go and handicap the other games and win. But bad juju, man. It's bad. You got to feel good about your team. So anyway, look, we're going to wrap this thing up.
Do we have time for a quick Super Bowl prediction from all three of us? Like,
yeah,
who's
go ahead.
Win?
Yes.
You want me to start?
Yep.
Jags 50-1, baby. And then when they lose, I'll give you another one next week.
Nate?
I think it's going to be Chargers, Eagles. Eagles win.
Bills win it all. Bills. Josh Allen, too much. Bills.
By the way, my preseason prediction: 49ers, Bills, Super Bowl. Bills win the Super Bowl is still alive. Y'all's are probably in the.
It's not gone. Alive. It's like alive and running. I mean, that if you go back to our first show, I mean, I predicted Titans and who did I say? Titans and Niners. You went with I went Titans and Niners. You went with Niners and Bills. I don't remember what Nate did, but not only are you alive, you're like kicking and screaming because you got a hell of a shot to make that. So very astute analysis. Hey guys, go to GodzillaWins.com. All our picks are going to be up there. I'll get my column later. You got our picks for today. All you got to do, get in the action. Go to GodzillaWins.com. That's GodzillaWins.com. And you can get all the picks there. And then to make some money, just go to DraftKings.com. Download their sportsbook app. Put in promo code Godzilla. Put in $5. Make a bet on any of the teams we said today. One bet, you're going to get $200 in free bets instantly and get in the game.